Welcome to SAT TV News. I'm Alicia George, your presenter. In our top stories, Health Minister says fully functional health system vital for Dominica. Bahamas to introduce new crime-fighting initiatives. More than 100 Congo refugees killed in boat accident. And in sports, 3 new athletes qualify for the Carifta Games. Details of these will follow.
The wheel of change is here at SAT. New and exciting rewards just for you. SAT customers simply pay your bill and get the new Loyalty Plus plan for free. That's 26 channels absolutely free for a limited period. Yes, you heard me, free. And if you do pay your bill, you'll have a chance to win big with SAT TV. Up to $15,000 in prizes are up for grabs. 7-inch tablets, BlackBerry smartphones, food vouchers, and much, much more. Get more from SAT TV, the people's choice. SAT terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. The government has embarked on a housing program for the residents of Collioure in its continued efforts to provide housing for its citizens. This announcement was made by Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit during the recently held Collioure Village Council 18th inauguration meeting. He said this is not because it is the government's responsibility to provide housing for its people, but because they realize some people would like to own a home but cannot afford to do so.
I am very happy that we can report to you, as you have done, Palrep, that Platma Pier is ready to be sold to the people of Collioure. And I'm saying publicly, the minister is here, the Palrep is here, that this land is for the people of Collioure. We have a maximum of 75 lots which we can have at Platma Pier.
Mr. Skerrit said currently 30 lots are ready to be sold as they survey and map out 45 additional lots.
So we are ready to sell the land to the people of Collioure. And I want to, sometimes, you know, all of us, we have a lot to say about Tula. Tula this boy, Tula that boy. But you must thank Tula, your Palrep, for giving great representation on behalf of Collioure on this land matter. Every time Tula would come to meeting, Tula would raise the issue of Platma Pier to me and to the minister and to the cabinet and to the party. And I really want to recognize his effort.
He also advised the new councillors to work in collaboration with the local government department to develop their community. In more news, 6 teams have been selected by the DDA, Discover Dominica Authority, to participate in the inaugural Dominica Film Challenge. The lucky teams have been invited to the island for a creative expedition to uncover Dominica's hidden treasures through words, pictures, and film, and were chosen among 101,000 applicants around the world. The teams will spend a week in Dominica and are invited to tell the story of the island through a short film, travelogue, photography project, or some other creative social media endeavor. Chief Executive Officer and Director of Tourism, Mr. Colin McIntyre, said he welcomes the opportunity to showcase a truly authentic Nature Island experience through the lenses and written words of the expedition teams. Teams are currently competing against each other for the creative challenge portion of the expedition, with prizes being awarded to the teams that best portray the image of Dominica and their search to discover their inner explorer. This challenge will serve as a means for raising awareness of Dominica's natural beauty, attractions, and cultural heritage through their social media networks. Mr. Michael Crabell, executive producer of the Dominica Film Challenge, stated not only are the teams talented, but they have an amazing social media following and influence that when combined amounts to well over 3 million people. The challenge began on Sunday, March 23rd and ends on Friday, March 28, 2014. The final project submissions will be posted online for a public vote in mid-June. To follow the participants, log on to Twitter at Dominica Story or hashtag Dominica Challenge. To learn more about the Dominica Film Challenge, visit dominicachallenge.com. In related stories, Discover Dominica Authority CEO and Director of Tourism, Mr. Colin Piper, has announced a 2014 headliner for the second annual Jazz and Creole Festival. Beninese-born Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter Angelique Kidjo is expected to headline the 5th annual Jazz and Creole Festival and excite the crowd with her rich, rhythmatically powerful expressions of female empowerment on Sunday, June 8th at Fort Shirley in the Cabrit National Park. Kidjo has enjoyed a long history of crossover collaborations with greats from the jazz and pop worlds, including Carlos Santana, Josh Groban, Peter Gabriel, and Alicia Keys. The Jazz and Creole Fringe continues in 2014 with the Evergreen Hotel on June 4th, Anchorage Hotel and Dive Center on June 5th, the Fort Young Hotel on June 6th, and Riverstone Bar and Grill on June 7th. Due to growing interest from local businesses, Mr. Piper also indicated that pre-fringe activities may begin as early as June 1st. Another element of the festival is DHTA's Hike and Jazz, designed to complement the week's activities. Starting June 1st, Hike and Jazz gives hikers, both visiting and local, the opportunity to hike in the day and attend jazz activities at night. The vision of the DDA is to grow Jazz and Creole as the supporting events to the recognition of Dominica's other festival tourism products like Carnival and the World Creole Music Festival. In other news, Minister of Health Honorable Julius Timothy says that a fully functional health system is vital for Dominica in order to achieve true social and economic development. The Ministry of Health has therefore welcomed a number of initiatives in support of cardiology services here in Dominica. Mr. Timothy noted in October 2013, the ministry engaged the services of Dr. Nancy Drucker from Fletcher Ellin Medical Center in the United States, who provided special pediatric cardiology services for children.
This initiative complements another initiative that the Ministry of Health has established with the World Pediatric Project in providing cardiology services and other highly specialized services. The Ministry of Health has been partnering with the World Pediatric Project, that is WPP, a non-profit humanitarian organization based in Richmond, Virginia, and St. Louis, Missouri, with a Caribbean hub based in St. Vincent.
Mr. Timothy said, to date, the value of the services received by Dominica's children is over US $3.1 million at no cost to the taxpayers of Dominica or the families of the children. Children under the age of 21 can benefit from this program free of cost. The Ministry of Health is also looking into the expansion of the project to include a community outreach model for cardiology services using a preventive approach to identify children with early stages of heart disease.
This component of the project will consist of screening clinics to be held at schools throughout the island, targeting children who are most at risk with congenital and acquired heart diseases. This thrust in establishing services for heart disease right here in Dominica is not only focusing on our children, but also on our adult population who are affected by heart diseases. Clearly, there are many persons who cannot afford to pay for these services overseas. In September 2013, we have installed echocardiogram equipment at the Princess Margaret Hospital and have employed an echosonographer and have aggressively begun recruiting visiting cardiologists for the development of our cardiological services.
The minister added the systems are being put in place to perform interventional cardiovascular services, including but not limited to placement of pacemakers in the near future. Mr. Timothy further stated that his ministry is committed to positioning Dominica as the epicenter of cardiovascular services in the OECS. In more stories, owner of Parry Bellot Enterprises, Mr. Parry Bellot, in his drive to increase productivity on the island, has received some optimistic feedback. According to Mr. Bellot, the group has received confirmation on funding for its first ever productivity training course.
The Caribbean Development Bank, so the Aid Bank, will be funding completely a course on customer service. Now, we know Dominic complained a lot about customer service, not only slowness in government, but in the private sector. Customer service in the private sector, which really needs improvement. And all that is related to productivity. The better you are at these things, the more everybody's happy, and therefore things start to click along. So we will be announcing the date of that course very shortly, once we finalize the arrangements and finalize who we are going to cater for.
Trainers will include specialists from across the region.
We've also started preliminary discussions with our regional conference on productivity in Dominica, and that's scheduled for August, September. We still have to finalize the date. The reason for that is because although our program obviously is focusing on Dominica, throughout the Caribbean, there are issues with productivity. Even Barbados had pointed out some years ago, some scholars at the university did a book on efficiency practice and productivity. And they confirmed that productivity surveys have never been done in the Caribbean. But they can gauge by talking with persons and doing a minimum sort of survey and some study, you can get an idea of where it's heading.
According to the investigation carried out, productivity is decreasing among Caribbean islands. Mr. Bellot noted that in order to maintain our standard of living in the world, we must attempt to increase productivity.
So, if we have to maintain our status, our standard of living in the world, we're going to have to do better. Because as you know, the Chinese are there with their cheaper products and so on, and their quality is getting better and better. We in the Caribbean, instead of gaining markets, we're losing markets.
Business organizations interested in participating in this training course are invited to send applications to the coordinating company, Parry Bellot Enterprises, or send an email to parbel@cwdom.gm. In more news, 6 primary school students across Dominica will on Saturday, March 29, 2014, compete for the second Mademoiselle Francophonie pageant. The pageant, scheduled to take place at the Arawak House of Culture in Roseau from 3:30 p.m., is expected to conclude the activities for the 2014 Francophonie month.
We have representatives from the Pioneer Prep, who's representing Gabon, St. Martin's Primary School, Quebec, Granby Primary School, who's representing Benin. We have W.S. Stevens Primary School, who's representing the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we have from the Dodan Primary School representing Mali.
They will compete in 4 segments: speech in French, performing arts, French fashion wear, and the Francophonie wear segment, where students will wear an outfit typically worn by inhabitants of the Francophonie country which they represent. Kimberly Cuffey will represent the Convent Preparatory School, Akisha John Baptist, the Granby Primary School, Candice Marcel, the Dodan Primary School, and Brené Charles will represent the Will Strathmore Stevens Primary School.
Je suis Mademoiselle Dominique. Je m'appelle Kimberly Coffey de OSA. Je représente Convent Prep. Merci beaucoup.
Je m'appelle Akaisha Jean-Baptiste. Je vais à l'école primaire Granby. Je suis en 4e classe. Aujourd'hui, je suis la belle fille qui représente le Bénin. Merci.
Je suis Candice Marcel. J'ai 11 ans. Je représente l'école primaire de Dodan. Le pays qui je représente pour la Mademoiselle francophone est Mali. Merci.
Je m'appelle Brené Charles, Genevois. Je vais à l'école Will Strathmore Stevens. Je représente la République démocratique du Congo. Congo est connu pour la musique et la danse. Venez avec mes sœurs et moi sur le voyage de pays de la francophonie. Merci.
Other participants include Zebedijah Maxwell of the Pioneer Preparatory and Georgiana Albert of the St. Martin's Primary School.
Je m'appelle Zebediah Maxwell. J'ai 10 ans. Je suis une élève de Pioneer Prep. Je représente le Gabon, un pays en Afrique. C'est un plaisir de participer dans cette Mademoiselle Francophonie.
Je m'appelle Georgiana Albert, j'ai 11 ans. Je suis étudiante de Saint-Martin Primary. Je représente le Québec, qui est une province dans le centre-est du Canada.
The show is organized by the Ministry of Education. And in court news, 1 year in prison is the sentence 48-year-old Albert John Baptist of Virgin Lane received when he appeared before Magistrate Bernard Paquette for the offences of wounding and being armed with an offensive weapon. The facts stated that on 22nd March 2014, John Baptist, armed with a knife, had wounded a 14-year-old student of the Dominica Grammar School. It stated further that John Baptist, who was at home with his son at the time of the incident, had heard the complainant calling his son Egghead and said that this was a reoccurring incident which he had reported to the complainant's grandmother. John Baptist, who was irate at the time, went into his house and came after the complainant with a knife, cutting him on the right side of his neck. The complainant's grandmother got word of the incident and took her grandson to the Roseau Police Station, where a report was filed, and he was later taken to the Princess Margaret Hospital, where he received 10 stitches. When police visited the home of the defendant, he readily admitted he had in fact wounded the complainant. He was then arrested and charged. In court on Monday, 24th March 2014, John Baptist admitted that he was wrong for doing what he did. He was then scolded by the magistrate, who told him that his actions that day were unjustified. John Baptist received a 6-month sentence for each offense. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.